job opportunities and have.
Okay, folks, we're gonna get started here in 1 second.
We get all done, because we're gonna fly through this meeting so that we can celebrate a little that we're in the holiday season. My name's Emily Lashbrook. I'm the Executive Director of the Pagosa Springs Community Development. Kat couldn't be here tonight because she has a very, very, very sick animal. Her little puppy is sick, and so just send good wishes her way, and she has to care for that animal tonight. So that's like your kid when you don't have kids at home anymore. So we're all hoping that, sorry, I have to allow the recording, that everything goes well for Kat. So a couple of things. I want to thank Riff Raff for hosting us. Jason Cox and Shelby are amazing. How many people in this room have not been to a cone zone meeting before? Hi, welcome. We got your email right on the list. Okay, I'm going to give you something else to do tonight. Actually, I'm going to tell you three right now. Nobody else listen. On this QR code, if you scan this, you'll get on the email chain for these meetings. Okay. And Rosanna's going to tell you something else that will happen with that, but you can get there that way. Okay. Main Street Cone Zone Committee members. We have Jeremy. We have Rosanna. We have Rick.
Mario just walked in.
What's that?
Mario just walked in.
Mario.
Darren.
Darren is back there. I was looking. They're all on the Cone Zone or Main Street?
Just Main Street.
Okay, so the extra people that I added at the end are on Main Street Committee. I mean, the board. CDOT project information. We have Meredith Green here today that's going to give you the most recent update for CDOT. And we have Tracy Truelove online if anything else needs to be added. I'm going to kick it right off to Meredith.
All right, that was quick.
Ready?
It's the holidays.
Yeah, I know. Good evening, everyone. I'm Meredith Green. I am with Associates Amica. Tracy and I are partners on this project, and we are kind of your spokespeople for the project as a whole and for your CDOT team. So as questions come up, they definitely should be directed to Tracy and I. As a reminder, we do have a project email in place, and you can use that email to email the both of us. That email is pagosa160reconstruction@gmail.com. We tried to make it as straightforward as possible for you. As we move forward throughout this process, we are working on setting up an action project website, which will be the single source of information moving forward, as well as a project hotline. But that will likely take place after the new year for those two items. Just the latest project update. As of last Wednesday, December 11th, I believe that's the date, CDOT's Office of Chief Engineer provided official notice that the project was awarded officially to WW Clyde. So we are moving forward with them as the project construction team. I came back with some answers to some of your questions from the last meeting, but just as a real quick project overview, there won't be anything major to report until likely after the new year, other than the fact that the project has been officially awarded. The start date for construction will be sometime between mid-March and mid-April, And that really depends on weather and nothing more. So the fact that the project was only awarded December 11th doesn't necessarily push back our start date. It really is contingent on what the weather holds for us. So I think that's the most important thing. Now, working back from those dates, CDOT, the Rock Salt team, and WW Clyde are going to be meeting to talk about concerns that have been brought up from the group. They're going to be talking about project phasing, really getting into the nitty-gritty detail. And so when we know more from those meetings, and then of course, once we know more from our project start date work back, we will, Tracy and I and CDOT, we will all be out here hosting an open house before construction starts so that everybody can come to it. They can ask all the questions they'd like relative to project start date and timing, and then initial phasing for the project itself. So just know that we will be coming back out and have a pretty big presence relative to project timing and startup. So that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to bring to you here today. And again, we won't know about the exact timing of that until after the new year, but all the internal conversations are happening right now to plan ahead for that. Just relative to some of your questions, I'm trying to make sure I've answered everything. Some of you guys had questions last time about the wait time and traffic control plan. Again, we won't know more about that until we have our internal project first meetings with WW Clyde. And we've already started discussing some the detail that needs to happen within those meetings. And then communication between CDOT and the contractor. CDOT highlighted the project spec that the workplace does take place in busy downtown. So again, when we start doing our project first meetings with the contractor, we'll be working through all the details of that specifically. Tracy, did I forget anything that I haven't touched on?
No, I think, did that cover all the questions we got asked last time that Adair sent our way? Mm-hmm.
And then some of you were actually asking about the contract. After the contract signed, is it public record? CDOT could release the signed contract if it was made through a Quora open records request and approved by the attorneys, but the contract itself wouldn't change anything that you've already seen as a part of the project spec or the project plan. So that is what it is. So I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions, and feel free to shoot away.
I have one thing to add really quick because it might provoke more questions. Last month, Jeremy, you asked if the committee was still going to be able to engage in the room with conversation. CDOT sent us a letter just last week, sent it to Kat and myself, and I believe the Cone Zone Committee. It is against their regulations to actually broker those kind of negotiations. That negotiation needs to happen between the contractor and our PIOs and us. So once the contractor gets on board, we can request those meetings and that committee still be engaged with the contractor, not with CDOT, because CDOT can only hire someone to do the job, not tell them how to do it. And we get to have a voice at the table when it's time to ask them to phase it or what have you. We can do that at that time, but it's not appropriate for CDOT to host that kind of meeting. Okay? Okay, now it's your turn. You get to have questions.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to not to put too fine a point on it, but any questions or communications about the project specifically should be flying through Tracy and I at this time. And should there need to be a change in the way information is flowing, we will definitely get back with you, but we are your points of contact for the project.
Tracy, would you put the email in the chat for the people online, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sir.
So completely understand the scope of a project like this. There's a massive number of stakeholders with all kinds of different risks and opportunities.
Right.
So it's gotta be very fluid, totally get that. The contractor's in charge of a lot, they're the implementation mechanism. And so as the process goes, I'm assuming there's some kind of balance we're trying to strike between getting the project done in a timely fashion, hitting the budget, not
Right.
going way over, which is, there's no inflation or anything, so we don't have to worry about that. All of the other things that are impacting the business, obviously, most of the people here, I think, are in the business community or in some form of government, and we have concerns and also want to work together on this. So I guess my question comes down to, with all of those things being considered, the contractor's still got a job to do.
Yes,
And they're not just doing one job, they're probably doing multiples. So what is the true level of influence that this group and this communication and interaction can have on how they face things in, for example, or how they try and do the best they can to respect the business's needs and injure the business's least?
definitely. And Tracy can certainly elaborate on that question that you have. Initially, there's going to be a lot of information going out in terms of all of our project and community partners, emergency management, the town of Pagosa, the county as far as logistics, and as well as our business owners. What we intend to do is have, of course, the open house where we're going to actually talk about the project phasing. When we get down to the nitty gritty, the day to day, you're going to be getting weekly updates from Tracy and I, and that is going to kind of tell us like, oh, we've got, this block or that block and these things going on. Other considerations that they are talking about with our construction team is doing night work, so it's not impacting businesses during the day. So that's a possibility. But once we have a chance to sit down and do the detailed project meetings with the contractor, we can work out a plan to better involve the local businesses when you have specific questions relative to the segments that are being worked on. So it's not outside of the realm of possibilities, but we are currently working on our involvement plan that involves internal communications as far as like us to CDOT, to the contractor, to Roxall, who's our construction management team, and then our external communication plan where we have all of our community partners and how we're communicating with them and the timeliness of that communication. So until we know a little bit more about the project phasing, I can't get into the specifics of that, but the point is that the Roxall, the construction management crew, will be listening and here, and also be communicating that information to our contractor week to week.
There is some level of influence, and we're gonna make this a symbiotic relationship as much as possible.
We're all gonna try to work together to row the boat. Tracy, did you want to add to that at all?
I guess can you hear me okay, Meredith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the question I would have is what is the cone zone, this group's cadence for wanting that they're planning to meet, right? Because I think, again, there's going to be an opportunity to voice concerns if they're not directly to Meredith and I, you're going to be able to use that group to be sure information is being bubbled up to the team. So I'm kind of curious a little bit, putting it back to you all, like what is the cadence of the cone zone going to be when we're actually in construction?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's something we discussed.
So the best way that I can answer this is that we're gonna be at our business community's beck and call. Our Cone Zone Committee will work hard to make sure that we meet challenges where they are and try to help our community to overcome them. I believe that we have already established a great line of communication with Tracy and Merida, and CDOT also. And I believe that great line of communication will carry us through this first section of this build. And then as we move through that, we can adjust where we need to adjust.
Okay, thank you for that. I always like to talk about how projects kind of just take a little bit of time to get into a very smooth rhythm for where the team is providing information to all of you and you're providing information back to us. One thing Meredith and I heard in our meeting internally was to look at that first season of construction as being a tremendous amount of the utility work. So again, when it's a tremendous amount of utility work, we also have, partner agencies that are going to be involved in that as well. And that's really going to come down to the Mike Coggins on our team and the WW Clyde project superintendent, who we just don't know who that is yet. but a couple people in your local community have suggested they've got some familiarity with this contractor. And, I know last meeting there was some conversation about how their website didn't really show the kind of work that we're doing here, but it sounds like they've covered a lot of ground. And once we get the chance to meet with them, we'll be able to learn a little bit more about their, what they bring to the table. So I think Meredith, you did a great job of covering what our cadence will look like, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna hit the ground running with all of you after the new year, but at this point in time, it's gonna be quiet. Likely through the end of January, so just don't freak out. It's just that we're doing all of the internal groundwork before, the project starts, and we also had an internal meeting with CDOT last week on the day it actually was awarded to really talk through, what is the long-term communication plan look like for this project. So, yeah, sure.
I think, the elephant in the room is simple and it's nothing ugly. It's an elephant. It's parking, right?
Yeah.
That's it. So I think if that could be addressed somehow, so for example, again, I know there's a whole lot going on. During the utility pre-work, you've got that in there.
It's down here. Yeah.
Right, that's what we're all concerned about. The rest of it is like, great, 2 drive lanes, everything else, the plan is actually fantastic for what we're stuck with. We have a very unique situation of one path through here.
Yeah.
With no way to route around. So
Right.
we're appreciative of the consideration, but I think that would be the thing for businesses is how can we least impact the parking without going way over budget and screwing up the contractor?
Definitely, and I think it's great that they already have the parking subcommittee going. Tracy and I are gonna be sitting in on those conversations when we are able to, and we're taking all that information back to the construction management team and the contractor, so we hear you.
Is there anybody in the room from that committee? Because I know I just sat on, okay, because it'd be great to give the team an update. Yeah, okay,
That's on the
good.
agenda, and Rosanna is here, and
Perfect.
so is Andy.
Great.
I'm kind of not understanding how. I have not been to a cone zone meeting before. I went to the town hall when it was over there at the town hall where we were talking directly to CDOT. I have a business that was exactly right to the creek, which I dealt with construction for 3 years on that I was told was going to be a 1-year project. So I know that all the things in writing is not going to happen. I mean, that's just me, okay? Negative, whatever, because I dealt with it. So is the cone zone situation gonna be that you are the people that we are gonna talk to? Because we cannot talk to CDOT and we cannot talk to the contractor. We have to go through you. Is this what cone zone and who implemented you people to do that? I'm just curious because when I heard a cone zone, I called down to town hall and they were like, no, the cone zone meeting. And I'm like, we're the cone zone people. Well, they're a special committee that went in to address your needs and then they're gonna address CDOT, which CDOT at the last meeting that I went to couldn't come up with a whole lot of answers to my questions. And I just feel like, are you gonna be able to, or are you just a middleman that's gonna be kind of the scapegoat when things don't work out, we're gonna come screaming to you? I mean, I'm not understanding, because I do have lots of questions. I have the biggest parking lot practically in town between Rainbow Gifts and the pawn shop. Rhino there, we have the biggest parking lot. You take all the parking away, and I already have a problem with people parking in my parking lot and walking downtown. When I talked to James Dickoff about this, he promised me years ago when the Creek project was going to be happening, oh, we're going to put up signs, we're going to show signs that people can keep walking down to Rainbow, down to you, down to the pond. We're going to put up all these signs. Never happened in 3 years, never happened. They blocked off driveways and everything else they promised they didn't. And I'm just saying is my parking, how are we going to stop people? We have a concern. Rainbow Gift, Ryan at the pawn shop, Tom and everybody else. What about that parking? We do have a concern with parking. I also want to know the time frame of when, okay, you said you don't know when this is going to start. When is it going to end? When did the contract say that this questions that I have, is it going to end? And they said before, like the creek, okay, it's got to be done within on this date. It didn't get done. Okay, well, they're going to be fine. Well, they weren't fine. And my question was to CDOT at the meeting at the town hall, what happens, so they're gonna be fined $9,800 a day for anything going over that. I don't understand all this because it never gets followed through. And so I'm like, I just don't want to come to you and kind of like be all angry with you when this doesn't come through and everybody else, you're gonna be kind of scapegoat if we can't directly talk to CDOT.
So this 2-part question, 3-part. What's your name?
Cindy,
Cindy. And what is your business, Cindy?
San Juan Mercantile.
Okay, thank you. That gives me some context.
Okay.
Now, there's, the two-part is, are you directing your question at both Tracy and I, and because we're representative of CDOT
Okay,
with
so
our
you
PIO role
I wasn't.
and the cone zone, like, because it's, there's two, you've got two separate things here.
We're working in
Right.
tandem. We're working together,
Okay,
okay, to create a conduit for our business community to get their opinions and their concerns heard. We're facilitating a conduit right to them, and then they'll be available to you directly as also. The cone zone is going to work with businesses to overcome the challenges that they're facing, depending on what block that it's coming. The cone zone is a committee that was established by the Main Street group, that the Main Street, Pagosa Springs Main Street.
Okay.
So it's a committee underneath it that is committed to not losing one business during this construction project. The construction project's gonna start in March. They have 300 and I wanna say 29 days to complete the project. But think about the weather and how
Oh, I
that's
do,
going to factor in.
Right.
So, but they have a time frame
Yeah.
and all of that.
Well, and to come back, like, and be a little bit more specific, so we will start sometime between mid-March and mid-April.
Okay.
Emily is correct. We have a certain amount of days to be able to complete that project. However, you have to view the project in two phases. Because, big phases, because we will start as soon as the weather clears. And then we will stop as soon as the weather gets nasty again. But I can't say when the stop date is, right?
Right.
And then we would resume work again. But in the internal meeting that Tracy and I had with our CDOT and our construction management team, we are very clear about the efforts that we are making to communicate with you all, the community, even with project start and, you know, phase stop and then restart. Like, before we even restart the project during that larger phase, we were going to come back out to you all and say, okay, here's our anticipated start. Here's what it's going to look like. And again, Tracy's correct. The main part of the first part of this project is just utility work,
Right,
right?
right.
The second part is going to be where we are, you know, paving and doing all the stuff that affects the lanes, right?
Yeah, and I totally understand that, and as I said, I know the 329 days, but like I was saying, and I don't mean that I'm directing to CDOT, because the creek thing was so many days also of good weather. They said, okay, we're gonna work at night, you know, whatever. I have video cameras all over my store. There were days, there was a single day they worked past 4 p.m. I don't care whether the sun was out, it was a great day or, so when I was concerned, when it went over a year,
Sure.
okay, who did I go to complain? Because I called Town Hill. I thought, how come CDOT is not making the contractor stick to the deal? Even though it was only my business practically impacted. I'm not saying that Rainbow and anybody else was, but to be impacted for a year over the said date. And whether, yeah, I understand. If we get snow, all kinds of snow, they can't work. I totally understand that. But my cameras are all recording. There was days they left at 3 o'clock. There was days they didn't show up. And when I addressed the contractor on scene, his exact words to me was, we have several projects going on throughout the state. Pagosa, the town of Pagosa, Archuleta County is not not sticking to the fine with us. So therefore, we are finishing the projects that we are being fined on. Now that, if you begin, I mean, I was angry. And when I went to town, no, can't talk to them. CDOT said, well, we can get with the contractor. It didn't help. So I'm just saying the scenario, if all of this is gonna be a real mess for a long time, and there's gonna be a lot of businesses impacted. I know I've already went through it. Who do we come to with this kind of problem? And the other thing with the utilities, when you say, and I know I'm jumping all over, but I'm trying to think in my head. As property owners are, they say the utilities are gonna be the first thing. We keep getting notices from the water, from the sewer, of all the reconnect fees, the new reconnect fees. Why are we gonna have reconnect fees? We're connected. Are we gonna have to pay for reconnect fees? I was told there was a private meeting in the town that says, okay, to bring the budget where we can get a contractor to actually bid on this job, because last year, they couldn't get one to bid within the budget.
You
They
are
couldn't-
killing my agenda, like everything you're addressing is on the agenda.
I'm sorry, but I'm just saying.
It's on the agenda, I
I'm
promise.
saying that it says that, okay, they decided to say, okay, property owners were gonna be, responsible.
Because I want to
Well, we
respect
have
Emily's
other
agenda,
questions
but,
too.
so a couple of things. We're getting a little ahead, but what I would like for you to do too, if you have questions, feel free to email us, Tracy and I, at the email address. Tracy, do you want to add anything about the timing for the project?
Yeah, give the accurate days, because I've slept since I heard that number and I could be wrong at 3:29.
Well, I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry. I also think we have to be careful about that because she's not wrong. I mean, we can get under there. They can find something that was not in the as-built. You know, you have all kinds of things that will occur on a construction project, right? The only thing we can count on is that our schedule might change or we might have to move in the location we're at. So I think we're going really deep. And these are the answers we're going to have when we have a chance to sit down with a contractor. Cindy, we weren't on that project, so I don't know why it ran the way it did, but we have that direct line into Albert and Kevin Curry and right up to Julie Constant at CDOT. So it's not like we're not going to have that conduit in, but I'll go back and look, Emily, if I can find those days. But again, what Meredith suggested is it's even though you have those days, they're not consecutive. We're going to go through that first season. We're going to go as long as we can with the weather. We're going to, so I think there's things you're looking for specifics on that at this moment we don't have until we sit down at the table with the construction team.
I think the bigger question is she's wanting to know if the contractor's being negligent and not honoring his part of the deal, will there be a penalty? It was asked in April or earlier, and we were told that there'd be an answer on it. We just want to know if they're gonna be held accountable if they're not holding up their end of the bargain.
Tracy, do you want to field that one from your work with Glenwood? Did you hear that, Tracy?
Yeah, I was a little bit muddled. I think it was about if there was going to be, I know there's milestones attached to this project, right? To get
There are
certain
very
dates.
specific milestones. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
they're
saying
asking about holding the contractor accountable if the milestones aren't met.
Without good reason, without good cause. We know that there's good cause for things. We want to know if it's, hey, we decided to do something else that's gonna make us more money and prioritize that, if they're gonna be held accountable with some kind of penalty.
My question is, will they be publishing like Gantt charts and schedules?
Yes. So yes. So typically what happens when we go into a weekly project meeting is we have a 2-week and 3-week look ahead every week. And then they're obviously going to have a baseline schedule that shows the entire in the entirety of the project. That's something that's pretty standard. I'm not a contract expert. I'm a public information officer. So I'm a little nervous about answering the other gentleman's question without having, again, somebody else here. So Meredith, if you'll get his name, we'll run that to ground.
It's
But-
Jeremy.
Okay. Well, we'll run that. There, I
I
don't,
know who it is.
yeah, well, we'll be able to, but I'm just sorry because it's 6:30. It's, sorry.
You get it done.
A single bargaining chip. I mean, it's a very hard thing.
Right, but I mean, we can run down the answer to that question, okay? But there are project milestones. WW Clyde is highly reputable. And we will follow up with that, okay?
What other questions do we have out there tonight?
Is WW Quad, are they familiar with the geothermal under the ground? Have they, I'm just curious. Because that's a real, not a real common thing to deal with. And I know that the pipes are all corroding. I mean, we've dealt with plumbing issues because the cast iron pipes have corroded because of the sulfur. All that's gonna crumble. I know as soon as they break into those utilities, because I've had plumbing issues myself, and I'm way up from away to Springs. I can't imagine down New Main Street how much is gonna crumble. Are they irreparable? Are they familiar with that? And my other question is, Do they have insurance if structural damage is done to any structure? Because I know that we're going from asphalt to cement, to two feet of cement, which on the average of a 24-inch cement base has to be compacted 600 pounds per square inch. You get that many jackhammers down Main Street to those old buildings that are from the 1800s, as you know, Goodman's is. I don't know if you've been in the tunnels down underneath Main Street, but there is tunnels. I've been down there. And every time a semi passes or even a box truck passes, dirt crumbles down there. So you start having serious compacting equipment on the front. There's gonna be structural damages. I'm sure Evelyn knows this. When she was redoing the theater, I had heard that there was some doorway that had actually even jarred a little bit with the construction, because that's 1800 buildings.
So that was the ghost.
Yeah,
That was different.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, is this I mean, how do we do with the insurance if something happens so we can't get our front door open? I mean, I'm not on Main Street like you guys, but what happens with Jeremy? I'm just concerned for the property owners. It's a lot of money we're talking about.
So a good thing that you have to know has been put in place is CDOT has hired this public information team for this project. They are working for CDOT and they have direct line to CDOT. So that is not something that is normally done on a project, even of this magnitude. They value this project, they value this input. This is the step that CDOT chose to make. This is going to be your conduit of, if you have a structural problem and you need to talk to somebody about it, this is going to be your first phone call. This is going to be your first email. This is going to be your first team that you meet. They're going to call out us if there's something that Cone Zone can do to help.
And how much authority do you have on that? I mean,
I don't have any of the.
So Emily, hey, Emily, it's Tracy. I wanted to share that when we were in the meeting last week, though, that Kevin Curry has the Roxall team doing video and capturing the current existing condition now on locations that are going to be impacted. So that's one part of this contract that's going to be done.
So Emily, to get you back to your agenda. This did not happen in the previous project. There wasn't this
This
level
is
of
new,
interaction and
right.
influence. So that would be a reassurance to me that I would take is, that's a step that CDOT had to pay for. You guys aren't free.
No.
And you are acting as an intermediary with some authority. I think that's a positive sign.
I'm hoping so, because I had flag people were not, I mean, I was guaranteed flag people, they weren't there. I mean, I dealt with 2 years of it, so I'm just saying, even though I'm not downtown where most of these people are, that's gonna be mostly affected by this. But I know my parking will be affected. My customers come from vehicles. They drive into my parking lot. I get very little walking traffic.
Can I get some other questions coming in?
Go ahead.
Because you're gonna hear a lot about traffic, I promise. She's got such a big update and it's not gonna impact you the way you think it is. Mary?
Really quickly, on that liquor thing, is it last meeting that you had over at the Bliss Scoops? Is that you were saying that this is a high profile, semi-rural, fragile project, and you're committing to consistent communication.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why Tracy and I are actually a team, which is actually also rare for these CDOT projects. Usually you get one PIO, instead you get two. So there is that. And also just real quick, y'all, I looked up our specs. So the earliest start date for us is March 17th. The latest start date is April 14th. Okay, so it's somewhere in there depending on weather and the like. And it is supposed to be within 324 working days.
Oh, I was so close.
I know, I was proud of you, Emily. Way to put forth your best effort.
Yes, ma'am.
The agenda, because I think a lot
Yeah.
of these questions
Are gonna be answered. Yeah, I think people want to be heard. I'm trying to respect that and I'm trying to find that balance. So any more questions for Meredith real quick? We can also circle back with questions, but I want to get on to Rosanna's update because a lot of your questions are going to be answered.
And I'm not leaving, I will stay.
Okay,
So,
so Rosanna is going to give you a lot of updates and I'm not even going to try to name them.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for coming tonight. I know there was a ton going on with the holidays and it just shows a commitment to your business, to our community, and we do appreciate it and we recognize it. To kind of go backwards a little bit and understand Main Street Advisory Board. The Main Street Advisory Board was formed and we
those. Yeah.
thank you, Tracy.
I think about it.
Yes, thank
I don't
you.
think Doesn't sound like Tracy.
We had to decide what our objectives were gonna be as an advisory board. This was a decision that we chose to take on as the Cone Zone Committee. We said, what does it matter what there is to offer in our town if we don't have a thriving business community coming out of this construction project? So we chose to take this on. We were not formed when Cave Creek happened. We are here to make sure that there is consistent communication and to support our downtown business community through this in every way that is within our capabilities. We are not CDOT. Your communication to CDOT comes through Meredith and Tracy, and they have been amazing because they are attending every meeting that we put on them, which is a lot because we're taking on a lot with this. So I just wanted to back up and for everybody to understand a little bit of who the Cone Zone Committee is and what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're doing it to support this downtown business community so we can all come out of this successfully together as a community with consistent communication from all entities. And that's what these meetings are about. Okay. Okay. Now, what else I've been doing with my time? So one of the things, there is a handout. Oh, not that one. This one. Yeah. Or nope. Down on under the sign-in sheet.
Oh.
We mentioned this last time. Nobody's taken advantage of it. And one of the great things about a Main Street Advisory Board are the access that we get in resources through DOLA, as well as Main Street America. The one-on-one consulting, as well as the educational resources that you guys can take advantage of because we are a Main Street community is going to set your businesses up for success. And these are all free resources, but they're only there if you take advantage of them. So please take one of those handouts, consider setting up a one-on-one consulting, free consulting to see how their consultants can help you prepare for the transition of this construction project. Their consultants are already aware. I've made them aware. They're aware of what we're about to go through and how much our businesses are going to need to prepare for this. You will only be as successful as the effort you put into your business in this, and you're showing an investment in it right now by being here. So please continue to invest in your business and use the resources that we're making available to you by being a Main Street community. With that, they have on the Main Street America website, they have a small business knowledge hub, which gives you courses on everything, including a ton of resources on e-commerce, how to get your business online to supplement your income that we know, unfortunately, we are going to lose in walk by traffic. Take advantage of these things. Prepare yourself before this happens. Don't wait until it actually happens because we know it is going to happen. And then we're also working on the Cone Zone Survival Kit. This is a sample one they used in Longmont when they went through a similar project. And then of the different construction objectives or ideas that they have to prepare, of the 16 that they have in place, Pagosa is already working on through Main Street, through Cone Zone, through the town, through the county. We're already working on 12 of 16. So we are so fortunate to be in the position we're in right now versus where we were a year ago. A year ago, we didn't have any of this in place. We've been blessed with having this time to prepare for it so that we can come out of this, not just surviving, but thriving. So we please continue to come to the Cone Zone meetings because we need your input on what information you want to see in that survival kit so that we can make it as useful and as helpful for the businesses downtown as we possibly can. If you have ideas for that, please text Kat, email Kat, let any of the Cone Zone Committee know, because we are actively working on this and we want to have it published for everybody before the construction begins. Okay, now the other things that I've been working on. The parking task force. Back in February, the town and the county tasked the Main Street Advisory Board with dealing with offsetting the loss of parking that's going to happen during the reconstruction. As everybody's that has been attending these meetings know, I've been working diligently with every private and public entity I can to offset that. We have amazing community partners in the Springs Resort, as well as the library, and we now have enough parking, temporary parking, to offset all of the lost parking at capacity on Main Street. The Springs Resort and the town are negotiating a lease right now to use their southern lot, because once again, it's such a blessing that we've had this time for Light Plant Road is open again. And so we'll be able to access the Springs Resort from the south. They have been kind enough to allow us to lease that property for temporary parking for people to utilize to get to Main Street, as well as the town was able to negotiate with the library to be able to use the lot to the west of the library. The Met has been kind enough to alter their stops to be able to have a stop right there so that people will be able to utilize that parking lot, hop on our public transportation, and continue downtown. So now that we have the temporary parking in place, we have started working on the communications plans. Tracy was awesome when, with very short notice, hopped on that meeting last week for the task force so that we could start developing a communication plan. And we already have in place a communication plan that is going to be utilizing the radio, the newspaper, and the movie theater on a regular basis to update people on where they can park, how to get there, to make sure that we have constant, consistent communication to our visitors, to our employees, and to our local residents on where we can park to minimize the chaos and minimize the impact on our downtown community. None of these things were in place with McCabe Creek. And these are all things that are in place and in work before they even hit the ground. And so I hope that you guys will work with us in continuing to get that consistent communication out to your employees, to your friends, to your family. And right now we're developing a handout that will have a map of where this temporary parking, as well as QR codes to the Met transportation system, to the CDOT website. And so everybody has the same information. We will have those available in your stores to hand out to customers who have questions. We'll have them at the check-in of all accommodations in Pagosa, so that when people check in, they know exactly what their parking options are going to be, what their transportation options are going to be. And we're working closely with CDOT, with the town, with the county to make sure everybody is on the same page about what resources we have available to get through this together. So that is the parking update. Now, for a little bit of happy news. We also have Old Fashioned Christmas coming up this Saturday. And outside of the Cone Zone, the Main Street Advisory Board went out and purchased $2,000 in gift cards from our local downtown community businesses. With those, is this the one? Yeah. We're going to be handing out hand warmers to everybody that participates in the Old Fashioned Christmas. You're going to scan this QR code. What that QR code does is going to enter everybody into a drawing to win one of those $100 gift certificates to our downtown businesses, but it's also going to sign them up for the Cone Zone newsletter. The Cone Zone newsletter is going to be another avenue we have to make sure that people in this community are receiving constant, consistent communication about this project. And so if you guys would like tonight, you are more than welcome to scan the QR code and be entered into the drawing to win one of 20 downtown gift certificates.
So especially the new folks, make sure you sign up for that. I'm going to give you a couple more updates. The CDC has been working with Region 9 on a business disruption loan program. This is 0 interest for the first 6 months, 1% for the second 6 months, and so on and so on. Hopefully nobody will need this because you're just gonna all flourish with customers. We are gonna roll this out when we know the time frame of this project, when we know when the phasing is gonna happen to where people will have to access this funding. It's a $0 to $10,000 quick loan. It's designed just like COVID money was, to go towards your payroll, go towards your rent payment or your mortgage on your building, things like that, maybe supplies if you need to, things like that. We also are working on 2 other grant sources. One is going to be grant funding for businesses in the community that might be able to assist with the water and sewer connections. That's one grant that we're working on right now. We also are working on another grant that will create a rendering of what our town is going to look like when this project is completed. So that we're got our head down in grants right now, and we'll keep you posted as those things are moving forward. The grant for the sewer connection, we're actually working with the town, and we'll bring you updates as we know. If you've ever dealt with grants, it's a short and fast deadline, and it takes them forever to decide, and then they might roll it out. So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And Emily, real quickly, Pause is also looking at some assistance to help defray their operation costs.
Excellent. Excellent. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Healthy skepticism. Over $66 million. Sorry to help people out. Pragmatism also helps.
Okay, a couple questions I have for you tonight. What specific challenges have you identified already that you might be facing? And if you don't have it right this minute, you can email it to me or Kat, but we really want to hear about those challenges. It's going to do 2 things for us. It's going to help us to inform the Cone Zone Survival Kit on things that you can do to mitigate those concerns, number 1, and number 2, it'll help us pre-plan on to help you get through that concern of how we can help you manage it. Yes, sir.
So the most specific challenge we're dealing with is in our part, I'm from the Humane Society, so we have the first floor, of course, you know what our parking lot's like, right?
Hi.
Just a bit, right? And it gets very busy, say, for donations and such, because you always have the through traffic, when people consider dropping things off. And so, way back, I seem to recall there was some comment regarding the fact that the contract would allow, how do I put it, for businesses that had access to access points. The contractor would be allowed to close off one of those points at a time. Now, that's gonna create a very serious constraint in our parking lot, because the whole parking situation we have depends upon constant true movement. If we close off one of those entrances, we actually don't have enough room for vehicles to turn around as they're dropping off donations, or, people pulling in and pulling out. So.
Let us
do you have
bring
any
that-
updates on that, on how?
Let us bring that back to the contractor directly. And then I think we can answer that. This is exactly why we're bringing this up right now, because I didn't even think about that till you just brought it up. Like, I need both accesses
Well, we
for
have
people to get
some-
in and out.
Management that's kind of trying to work through these, and that's
Yeah.
one of the questions they brought up.
Great.
And certainly, what's been let out to the current contractors is different. See, I have the old specs from like way back when, but I don't have the new ones. The old ones are quite bad, quite frankly, with regard to, maintaining business access and keeping, say, just one access point open versus 2. We definitely need to have both our access points kept open.
Got it.
Thank you.
Mary?
I have a quick question. In terms of the survival tip package, are you coaching businesses to think in terms of 4 years in case this goes longer because of weather and everything else? What are they doing to increase the awareness and incentives to come to their business downtown?
Great. We'll take that into consideration.
I'm also offering free coaching for half an hour for everybody else.
Awesome. Jeremy?
It came up last Cone Zone meeting. It sounded like you guys were saying that there would be both directions of traffic being maintained, but that there would be closures regularly that couldn't extend beyond 10 to 15 minutes. And what we understood back in April, May timeframe was that it was going to be constant in both directions with minor closures that could last more than 10-15 minutes, but it wouldn't be a regular thing. It would be like, hey, we have to get equipment across the street and we're gonna close the road for 10 minutes, but then we're gonna get back open. It's gonna stay open until.
Right. So I love these questions. We're writing them down, we're recording them. And it's at any given time, but I really need to get you answers to these questions after we've had the project first meeting with the contractor, so I can come back to you with more specific answers.
The reason why I thought you would have the answer for it is that it was our understanding that that was gonna be built into the contract initially. Back when we were talking to y'all or talking to CDOT.
Sure.
In May. So the fact that it's not an answer to the question already concerns us in the fact that that means that there's a good chance there won't be the traffic going all the time. And if they have the regular closures to where only one lane is going at a time throughout the entire day, they'll, that's.
Tracy, do you want to respond to, did you hear what Jeremy asked about the both lanes open at the same time?
Yeah, I heard it,
not-
but I don't recall that being I don't remember who said that,
either.
Jeremy. That's new. That's the first
But
time
also-
I've heard that.
Tracy and- Okay.
That was our meeting.
I remember it. You
Okay.
remember it.
So let's back that freight train up. Because Tracy and I were not here in those meetings, okay? And to be fair, those are specifics that are going to be hashed out with our contractor starting in January, February timeframe, okay? So we can come back to you with answers on that, but I don't have the answers at this time, okay? So we'll get there.
It scares us that was spoken.
I get it.
You know, it can't be in the contract. If you're saying that, then it wasn't in the contract.
I don't know.
Yeah.
the contractor discussion.
Real quick opportunity here, talking about pushing out information, that's a
Sure.
concern, terrestrial radio is what it is, all that. This is a great opportunity for CDC and broadband to align with public information. What if we put public Wi-Fi a la Durango around there, and when you get on public Wi-Fi, you get that push notification, boom, click here for parking info, yada, yada, yada.
It's a really good thought. I like that thought.
Mayor, right there.
No. Town manager, I don't want to. He doesn't want to work with me.
And my other question when you show
Can
Can I send notices out to property owners that there is going to be a reconnection fee on utilities?
I'll have to defer to the town on that. We're not in charge of utilities.
I know everybody on Main Street has but had their pipes.
Right.
It's showing time.
Right.
And all this.
We had
I know, but see, we're lying,
And then
she's
all
saying an hour.
we're receiving in our
Readings.
sewer bill and in our water bill is the reconnection fee. It doesn't say that we have to reconnect. We did have our pipes hammered because they did come out and but nobody has ever said that you are gonna have a reconnection fee. I'm curious.
Cause I got an estimate of what it was gonna take.
It just a little blue paper.
Are there any other comments or things that want to come in?
It's my first meeting, so excuse me, is there like information plans, phasing, is there anything online, or is there a resource to access that?
So we're,
Almost.
yeah, we are working on it.
It's like, to me,
A lot of
you know,
it. Yes.
Plans would enlighten me on how this is gonna go. I just have to look at the plan before I even say anything, because that'll
So
phase my mind.
realistically, since this is your first meeting, CDOT put an RFP out, bidders bid, they selected one to work with. They said, here's what we can offer. They said, okay, we'll accept this, except for we want to make this change. So then CDOT had to re-examine. All of that just came to a head this past Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's when the project became a project. The contract is signed. Now it's a project.
Yep.
Now the plans can all move forward the way that everybody's agreed. And we'll have access to them.
Okay, so scope and renderings available now, or is that part of what you just said? Cause I understand phasing is gonna come after you hire a
Sure.
contractor and they like digest how they're gonna approach this thing.
So when we have our big public open house prior to the start of construction, the whole world can attend, and we will have some posters where we're gonna have some like the specs and stuff. Now, we won't necessarily have the renderings because that's what Emily is working on, right?
Sure.
But we are going to have the contractor there, we're gonna have our construction management team, we're gonna be there, the gang's all here, and we'll be ready to show you some stuff and talk to you about the initial phasing.
And Meredith, I think if the plan sets, if you're someone who can read a plan set, you can do the Cora request to get them. If you need questions or information on how to get the link to Cora.
We're talking, so I'm sure she'll fill me in. Go ahead with your question.
I know in one of the very early meetings for this, we had talked about geothermal for the sidewalks and streets. Is that still not a thing?
So that is a question for the town. David Harris.
Barely out of our budget.
That is very much on our radar discussion, and we don't even need to worry about this for a second. But we do know that this is a grand opportunity to replace pipes that are in the ground.
Because we're 30 years away if we don't do it this project, correct?
There's not enough heat.
Okay.
Common sense says take care of it.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what we're operating under right this second. There's no formal plan, but
Yeah, okay.
that's definitely on our, I mean, it. Yeah.
Okay, I want to be mindful of your time. Is there any other comments or ideas, things we need to be aware of, things we need to start looking into to answer as we move forward with these cone zones?
And I just want to remind everyone that Emily and Kat have really graciously offered to put together an email blast list for us, such that when the project is underway, even beforehand, once we're getting ready with our open houses, you can be informed, you can get the emails directly. It doesn't necessarily have to flow through one source. It can come from us. And then in the meantime, if you have questions or concerns, please email us at pagosa160reconstruction@gmail.com. It is a direct line to Tracy and I. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Rosie. Thank you. And also the postings are going to take, if you like Facebook, the postings are going to take place on the Southwest Colorado Facebook page relative to this project. So anything that we blast out is going to be available throughout all these sources. And as we get closer to our open house, we'll even let you know how to stay informed in addition to the email blast. So you'll be inundated with information.
Hopefully you're sick of it.
My offer last meeting stands to be part of your communications to the audience.
We just were waiting for a project to really kick it off.
It's fair.
Is there a specific Facebook page for this project, or is it a general CDOT?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but we are not allowed to create specific Facebook pages for this project. But we will be using the Southwest Colorado CDOT. It's kind of essentially our Region 5. And they're going to be the ones blasting out that information on our behalves. So I can tell you what it is if you just give me a second.
While you're looking for that, I want to do a check-in and find out if Mondays are going to work for you moving into the new year. Should we keep it at the same time? Keep moving it around? We are going to push January's meeting kind of towards the end of the month. Couple of reasons. We got the holidays coming up and people have time that they're going to travel and things like that. And we're more likely to get a real valuable update if we get a little bit later in
We
the
might
month.
actually push back to February.
And there's a possibility it could push back to February, is what she says. So stay tuned in. As always, you can reach out to Kat at pagosaspringscdc.org. We are up behind City Market in the Cascade Plaza building. You're welcome to walk in at any time if you want to come and chat about this project. Are there any lasting questions that we can close out the night with? I want to be respectful of your time. Ma'am?
The theater is available to you, but it's gotta be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because we're closed those days, right?
Yeah, Hidden Track's open or closed Mondays now, so you can use Hidden Track on Mondays.
Awesome. Good to know.
The Facebook page for your reference is called CDOT News Southwestern Colorado. And that'll blast out anything. It'll have all the information from the website that Tracy and I are working on, plus our weekly updates and anything else that could possibly be spur of the moment, in addition to everything that's in the email blast. So it's all going to be, I think the whole point I'm trying to make is we are going to be releasing consistent information from those sources, for what it's worth.
Anyone else? Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming. Cindy, I'm glad you were here. I hear you. Help us help them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna be so impacted as they are.
Yeah.
But I know what I dealt with, just telling them that, you know. what they need.
Thank you all for coming. Watch your email. We'll let you know when the next meeting is and get back to your holiday chatter.
Thanks for the drink, CDOT.
No.
That's on recording.
Oh, sure. Happy to help. Thank you, everyone.